Hello everybody, welcome back to the Cybercade Devlog. This week I added a really cool new melee enemy to the game, and I wanted to show you guys. All the models that I'm using in the game, like this motorcycle, and this building, and this little kiosk thing, they're all assets that I got from the Unity Asset Store. Specifically, they're this asset pack right here that I got when I first started making Cybercade, this Polygon Sci-Fi City thing. Their stuff is on sale recently, so I picked up a whole bunch of new asset packs so I could have some new content to make levels with and maybe some new types of bad guys as well. So the goal here is to take one of these sort of samurai or ninja guys and turn them into a new kind of melee enemy that, when it spawns, runs at you, and when it gets close enough to you, starts swinging its sword at you. Cybercade obviously takes a lot of inspiration from the Area 51 arcade game, and I always loved these guys that pop up right in front of you and try to attack you. So I really wanted to make sure to add some melee enemies to Cybercade as well. So we're going to grab this ninja character, I'm going to copy it, go to where I keep my enemies, paste, we'll call this enemy melee. Back to Unity. The default materials in the asset pack are not compatible with our render pipeline that we're using. So we want to change the material health, death, random skin, fade in and out. Spawn info is for all the enemies that get spawned into the level, as opposed to bosses or pre-existing enemies like gun cameras or exploding boxes that start out there. And finally, this object is network pooled. That's most of what we need the enemy to do. For the running at you and attacking you part, I'm going to make a new component called enemy melee movement. We'll definitely need a new animator controller for this guy. And now we'll fill in the values. The melee enemy is going to need to figure out what path it needs to take and what player it needs to pick. So I'm going to need to make a new type of spawn point to give it that kind of information when it appears. Because spawn points are networked, they always need a photon view, and we'll make our new class. I want to define a curve in 3D space that the enemy can run along before it attacks you, the path it takes to you. We'll use a spline component from the new Unity spline library for that. Our new melee spawn extends enemy spawn, so it does everything an enemy spawn would do, plus whatever I define here. When the game starts, we need to take that path that he runs down and convert it to world space. Otherwise, he'll spawn and run out of the point in the world that's just at 0, 0, 0, XYZ. And when this spawns an enemy, we grab the melee movement class, and we assign the path from the spawn point to the path that the enemy needs to run down. Then we have him pick a random player to attack, or right now I just have it set to one player. The moving and attacking class has a little bit more going on with it. We need to define the animator for controlling the animation, the speed that he moves, the path that he takes, the distance at which he can attack the player, the distance at which the player can run and the melee enemy at that point needs to chase you, whether or not he's attacking, the time between attacks, the time into the attack that the damage is dealt, the player that he's targeting, how far down the movement line is he, where was he last frame, and some states for our animator to use. When it gets enabled, we set its animation states. Every frame, we check if we're attacking. If we are, get out. The attacking part is handled by a coroutine. If I'm close enough to attack, start attacking. Set the animation states and the attacking variable to true and begin that attacking coroutine. And if I'm not close enough yet, we need to run further down the line. Got an attacking coroutine that starts the animation, waits the amount of time into the attack until the damage is dealt. This is like 0.25 seconds. If you're the one being attacked, you take some damage. And then we wait for the complete attack time before we check to see if we need to run to catch up with the player, if they've run away from us, or if we can just attack again. Little helper function at the end for always making sure that the enemy runs to the player. Found this super badass samurai animation set, so I threw together a simple animation controller. When you spawn, you move. If you get close enough to attack, then you stop. Then you transition to an idle state. And when you receive the attack trigger, you can attack the player. If you're in the idle state and the player is far enough that you need to move, then you go back to the moving animation. Any state can lead to death. And we've got 3 different death animations that were really nice that we pick randomly from. And the final result is this. We got a guy that spawns, he runs along a curve to you. Once he reaches you, he starts to attack you. And then, when we get a little sick of him, he can be killed. So that's basically it. It was relatively easy to add the new guy to the game. Maybe there were a few bugs and hitches along the way that I didn't include in the video. I think at this point I've got enough enemy types and things to do within the game that I really have the design space I need to make the full set of levels that I want. The only thing really that's difficult that's left is the bosses. I need more boss ideas. The bosses are a lot of work in terms of animation, design, and programming. It ought to keep me busy for a bit while I come up with a unique one for each level. But for the most part, I think I can get to level designing like crazy now. Not sure how many I want to have before I try to release it. Building levels is really fun, and it's easy to get lost in the weeds and not focus on the things I really need to do to move this whole project along. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for checking out my video. Like and subscribe, share it with your friends, I don't know, YouTube stuff. And remember that whatever cool project you're working on in your life, you can do it. You have it within you to get it done. I believe in you. Good luck. See you next week.